5 minutes with Fitz, back for a week number 2. Hello, Peter.
G'day. It's a beautiful day.
It's a lovely day.
And it's a day before league starts. I've been looking forward to it. Tomorrow night. Is it
Season arrives, yep.
Canterbury and...
The old foes, Parramatta.
That'll be good. Parramatta will win easily.
Sold out Bankwest Stadium, then a sellout in Townsville for Cowboys Broncos, and then Battle of Brookvale, Seagulls and the Storm on Sunday.
I went to Bankwest Stadium on Saturday night to see Elton. First time I've been to the new stadium. Pretty good.
Goes all right, doesn't it?
Just one of them. We don't need 3 of them. But anyway, carry on. Don't get me started.
Yeah, let's definitely not go down that stadium's path. Latrell Mitchell, he's been, look, we spoke last week and it's been a big talking point. Same thing on Sports Sunday the weekend, the NRL advert. But Latrell Mitchell's role in it was a big discussion point leading it. He switched clubs over the off-season and it took a hell of a long time to finally get that done, going from the Roosters, testing his value on the market, eventually ending up at the Rabbitohs. 22 years of age. Is there too much expectation on the shoulders of this young man who seems to have become an Indigenous icon and a trailblazer and someone that
it's a very interesting
bit of a lightning rod?
Look, because I mean, for me, it's just straightforward. There he is with the superb image of the Indigenous flag proudly wrapped around him, standing with his feet in the ocean. I mean, it just looks fantastic. But we've seen the reaction. And while the commentariat has been, respectful of Latrell Mitchell while not agreeing, I gather that on social media there's, racism and all that, and I hope that he's strong enough. I'm sure he's strong enough to cope with it, but at 22 years old, it would be quite something. Can I read you something that I thought is I was shocked by the Adam Goods, both of those documentaries. The racism that he faced was staggering. I mean, the final quarter was the one that I particularly was involved in. But on that, Waleed Ali said this: it's about the fact, this was in terms of Adam Goods, and I think some of it applies to Latrell Mitchell. It's about the fact that Australia is generally a very tolerant society until its minorities demonstrate that they don't know their place. And at that moment, the minute a minor, someone in a minority position, acts as though they're not a mere supplicant, then we lose our minds. And we say, no, you've got to get back in your box here. The backlash is huge, and it's them who are creating division and destroying our culture, and that's ultimately what we do. We boo our discomfort. I've been writing stuff for 30 years. I've never said anything as eloquent as that. That was Waleed Ali nailing this thing of the Indigenous, we're all good with Indigenous people and all that, until they lose their supplicant stance and say, we're not singing the national anthem and we want to display our Indigenous flag, and then we lose our minds. And I think with Latrell Mitchell, I don't know him well. You probably know him quite well, do you?
I've met him a few times along the road.
Fabulous footballer. When you see him play,
and
the speed, the verve, the swerve. But it is an interesting point that at 22 years old, this is a lot to visit upon his shoulders. But I imagine that, by the sounds of it, he put his hand up and said, very happy to do it.
Was happy to do it. The South Sydney Rabbitohs, though, reports that they weren't too happy that Latrell's been thrust into this role at the start of the season, having switched clubs, having had a lot of issues to deal with away from the footy pitch as well, and sorting out his own career that perhaps they think it was mishandled.
And yet, South Sydney Rabbitohs have got a very proud history with Indigenous footballers. So I don't know. I don't know enough about how he's coping, but I hope he's coping, and he can be very proud, and rightfully so.
In the end, it's just an ad, Pete. There's too much being made of it.
I think it's. I think I might have mentioned. Have I mentioned? I think it's a fabulous ad. Yeah. And a mate of mine had a half a go saying, he didn't name me, but he basically said that, and I won't name him. It's all friendly between us. But basically saying you've got to look at the politics of the people that support the ad to say that's why they support the ad, because their politics agrees with the ad. The answer to that, and a lot of people saying to me on Twitter, mostly I must say I've got huge support, which is fairly rare for me on Twitter. But people saying, how dare you? Sport and politics should not mix. Please, that is the hoary old chestnut that is always trotted out, and it was particularly hurled at me in the 1980s on the issue of apartheid and sanctions on apartheid, to which I wrote, the third piece I ever wrote, saying, this is not politics, this is not Liberal and Labor and parliamentary, Mr. Speaker, this is about us. It's about us as a community coming together to say, what sort of a country do we want to have? And with rugby league, the impressive thing about this, led by Todd Greenberg, is if you want to run a business, a public business where you need the turnstiles to swing around in the 21st century, be you an airline, be you a sport, be you a media company, you need the people coming through those turnstiles have got to look like Australia. So you need white people, you need Asian Australians, you need Indigenous Australians, you need gay Australians, you need Australians with disability, you need all Australians. And if you are seen as one of those public entities to say, no, we're not fussed about any of the minority groups, you're stuffed, mate. You're gone. You can't. So proper running of a sport is exactly the way Todd Greenberg has done it with that great ad saying we want everybody on board to play rugby league. And as I said to you last week, rugby league are no longer the slobs up the back of the bus smoking the durries behind the back seats, the naughty boys. They're up the front of the bus and they're driving it, and good luck to them.
So what's the end goal here? I mean, Liz Ellis spoke on Sports Sunday about she's looking forward to the day where it's not talked about as women's sport, it's just sport. With Indigenous sports stars like Latrell and Adam Goods and inclusivity across the board. I mean, there's such a huge part of our game already. Okay, I mean, what's the end goal from the whole debate?
Okay, but the end goal of the whole debate is I am, you are, we are Australian. We're all in this together, and you know that we don't need to do ads like this. It's not even commented upon because it's just normal. It's an ad that looks like Australia. But you and I think, you know, to a certain extent, what's behind your question is, I'm gathering, I don't see a lot of racism around, and that's because you and I don't. I mean, I must say on social media, I see it a lot, and I'm quite shocked when you go into. I went into one yesterday, and I reported the guy on Twitter because of the just outright ugly racism that's there. And when you saw those documentaries on Adam Goods, where did that come from? Every time Adam Goods touched the ball, you had thousands of people going, boo, boo. There was a collective mass of people doing it, and it is as ugly as a hatful.
All right, well, let's hope we don't get any of that this season. We want...
This vision will probably get some. Yeah, come on, what do you got? Let's see it.
You've got a habit of doing that. Hey, there might not be any fans to boo too. If coronavirus has its way, it might be empty stadiums that footy players are out there.
I can't believe that's going to happen, can you?
It's hard to picture in your head, but it's happening overseas. You never know. All right, Peter, looking forward to next week already.
Bye-bye.
5 minutes with Fitzy.